Welcome back, Brother Franz here. Today we have a hot topic. We're talking about the truth about evolution. Now, many Christians are aware that, this is not the truth, evolution is not the real thing, but they don't understand the purpose behind it. And today we're going to talk about it. First, let's start by reading Genesis 10:8. Genesis 10:8 says, Cush fathered Nimrod, who was the first powerful ruler on earth. Which means prior to Nimrod, God was the king of the earth. But Nimrod decided to take over, and instead of following God's laws, he decided to make his own laws. It's important to understand because this is the first concept of socialism. And this started then and never stopped, unfortunately. Now, let me tell you a quick story about my experience with evolution and how it started. I was 8 years old, went to school every morning as usual, and in one day things were a bit different. The teacher started talking about something I never heard before. She said, "We are not from God, but we are all from monkeys." And you know what? Everything started then, and based on evolution theory, we became men at some point. Now, I was upset about this because all my life I was told, like, no, God created man. So she had a teaching who seems convincing to us. And I remember my sister and I went home and we said, Mom, here's the truth. We are from a monkey. And you see that little bone just above a bump? Well, this is where our tail used to be. And my mom got upset, real upset. And she brought the Bible. And, after a couple of minutes, listening to what she was saying, I was more afraid of my mom than my teacher. So the next day, I'm going back to school. And now the teacher started talking about this evolution thing. And, I stopped her in the middle of it and I said, "This is not true. I'm from God." And she looked at me like I was the most stupid person on earth and said, "You are from a monkey." And I asked a question. And I know that I was from the Spirit of God. But I said this: if we are from a monkey, how come monkeys do not turn to men anymore? Now, she was real quiet. She never answered my question, but I can tell you this: she stopped teaching that evolution thing. I was 8 years old. And I have enough sense to understand that if you talk about evolution and something is evolving, there should be some type of consistency. So that means if it started, it's still going now. But the truth is, nobody with the open eyes saw any evidence of it. All the evidence had been buried for millions of years, meaning that nobody was around to look at it. And there's something important about those millions of years, because it's easier to say a lie if it was millions of years away than 4,000 or 5,000 years. Now let's go through a few things. The purpose of evolution. It's all about the theory of no consequences. You see, when Darwin came up with that theory, the scientists of the time rejected it in block. But somehow it crept in for one reason. There was a category of people who was financing this. And it was simple. The purpose of evolution was to remove God out of the equation. Think about it. Now we're in 2015, and people have been doing wicked things for many years. Well, let's go back in the years 1800. In the years 1800, if you were a man, you had to marry a woman to be with her. Because Every laws were based on the Bible. And there is many things was illegal that some wanted to do. And they realized the only way to get it done was to get God out of the equation. Now, you see many wicked things. But back then, they were punishable by the law. So, evolution is the theory of no consequences. Because if there is no God, there is no law. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, without consequences. Now think about it. Right now, under God, we are still free, but we know that there is things we do will bring consequences. But under evolution, there is none. Here's the flaw in evolution. In the Bible, Genesis 1 verse 1, very powerful verse. And this is what it says. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is the first line. Powerful thing. Beginning is time, heavens is space, and earth is matter. So basically, God is saying right there in the beginning, God basically, He created time, space, and matter. Very important. Because if you look for an object, you look for your car, you need to know where it is. So you need a space. So I'm going to tell you it is across the street. But once you know the space, you need the time too. Because it could be across the street yesterday, but not today. It's very important to understand. So time is the first requirement. You need a time. Okay, so let's call it a container. You have the time container, and after that you have the space container, and after that you can put an object there. Here's a problem with the theory of evolution. An object exploded, created space, and space created time. It is illogical and impossible. The other thing, man, see, evolution says that it's a process where the old die and the stronger survive. What about man? Monkeys are still around. And the evolution theory is like, no. The first species die to create a new species. So, here comes the two flaw right there. And so what we know is since the evolution had been adopted strongly, and if we talk about Canada and the United States, it's roughly in the 1960s, prayer has been out of school in the 60s. Remember that? So basically, getting God out of it. There is some schools in the state where you're not allowed to say the name of Jesus. And what do we have in the school now? Guns. Violence. Teenagers who are pregnant. So, the theory of evolution was never meant to show you where the world came from. The purpose of it was always to get God out of the equation so we could live in a world where there is freedom without consequences. This is my teaching today. God bless you. And remember Joshua 1:8, thou shalt have good success.